this time, could everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for coming. At this time, may we have a roll call?
Chair Mike Wrench, President. Vice Chair Karen Malecki, Lance, Alderwoman Sherry Hanneman,
Here.
Commissioner Mary Remington,
Here.
Commissioner Owen. Anybody here from there?
Absent.
Okay. Commissioner Kristen Stanley.
Here.
Michelle Runke. Kevin Schlater.
Here.
Sauk City Engineer Glenn Morrow.
Here.
And Dale Borker.
Here.
At this time, I'd like to open it to citizen comment period. Since there are no citizens here, we will close it right away. Then we'll move on to the approval of the meeting minutes from January.
I move approval. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. We'll jump ahead to number 4, unfinished business. Gentlemen, we have an update on parks maintenance.
This month, not a ton happened, I guess. The guys cut down some trees in Legend Park. If you didn't notice that, the complexion looks a little bit different there. So that's gonna, it's gonna change things there. The ice rink, we've had that. The ice rink, we've had that open a total of 10 days so far. So we're trying to keep that open when possible.
It's the best insurance against winter weather we've had.
Yeah, no kidding.
Other than that, new shelves up at Franklin Woods Pavilion because there's not much room in the utility room there for things. Trying to organize that a little bit better to have a little more room there. Probably going to be doing the same thing at Legend 1 and 2 and nice stuff. And that, thinking about spring, how we're going to keep Laura Kalos Park going for another year. Structures that I mentioned in the past, parts are worn out, so we're probably going to have to replace some parts because we haven't. That's about it in the parks. Any questions?
3, budget. Parks Commission request for information on personnel additions, capital outlay fund needs, equipment revolving fund needs, street improvement fund needs, and major capital expenditures to be made with borrowed funds.
So, as you're aware, we are currently between directors of finance, but Tom Bakarski from the finance department provided the sheet that was included in your packets for the 4th quarter of 2022. So this is unaudited, and he expects that this might change a little bit. They haven't closed the year out fully, but at this time, there were I don't need to canvass all of this, but there was revenue from park and field reservations in the amount of $30,000, $30,407, and that's relevant to some of our discussions here about permitting. Total operating expenditures were $289,507. Capital outlay in the amount of $37,034 for general capital outlay. But then if you move down to the larger capital expenditures, you will note that we ended up with a total net expenditure of $2 million. Note that we ended up with a total net expenditure of $2 million this year. That was because of the purchase of the Southwest Park, the amount of $1,507,000. So if there are questions about this, we'll be providing an updated If you have questions about this, we'll be providing an updated piece of information for the full year. At this point, I don't know what the budget process is going to look like for 2024. So last year we started working on that in April, May time. You know. Ideally this year we'll collaborate with DPW to make sure that everything's aligned and we're not duplicating things. And then we'll see how it goes. So, but at present, there's no director on that stuff. Who's going to be setting the direction for the budget? Here.
Get the finance.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah, but in the meantime, Tom is filling in the blanks. So this is the fourth quarter for you guys. There was also a request for the from the commission for information about pickleball facilities. So Ms. Lance can expand on that if you want, but included a memo here with this commission has discussed conversion of pickleball or of tennis courts to pickleball courts when the courts are resurfaced. So
Yeah, and there was, it was just discussion in December. I went back and looked. Someone said it would have to go to common council after they figure out expenses, and I just thought we should vote if that's what we need to do, if we have to vote. Do that.
So if you wanted to send a recommendation as a body up to common council, you would have to do that as a vote on it, like quiet.
You mean to just stripe them or stripe them with both, or?
Well, they said they would, well, people have expressed they didn't want to stripe them, but it was mentioned that when they redo these ones right here by the library, to perhaps make those permanent here by the library, to perhaps make those permanent pickleball courts, and then the ones at Legend 2 would be put back, make a tennis court there. But this would give us 12 courts, because the Pleasant View courts, there really are only 6.
I'll let the alderwoman weigh in this, but maybe that might be a little bit micromanaging.
Courts, there really are only 6.
I'll let the alderwoman weigh in this, but maybe that might be a little bit micromanaging at the council level. I would suggest that maybe that might be more appropriate to think about. I could be wrong.
Would it require anyway?
For one. For one. Stripe them one or both.
I think we need to first find out how many courts we can afford
Right,
to do, and that, I think, is going to dictate
exactly.
tennis
Okay.
or pickleball.
Just for our next month's agenda, that we distribute a copy of the 2023 budget for parks, so we have that finalized document in front of us. I'm sorry I didn't to grab my budget book before I came. I could have made copies, but because I can't remember off the top of my head how much we did. I want to say, let me see.
For just the,
Was it
what was
200 or 300? Do the resurfacing?
We hit
Apart from Pleasant.
200, but
Some was added from other stuff.
Because we had recommended the removal of some of the other expenses to put all into that, and I just can't
I had
remember
asked for
now.
200.
Of some of the other expenses to put all into that, and I just can't
I had
remember
asked for
now.
200
200?
to resurface. I don't think this asphalt's going to cost.
Okay.
and that was just the ones by the library. Those were just the ones at
I believe we asked for $200,000 a year.
Yeah, I'll have to confirm in the capital budget, but I believe
That's right.
you got it.
Yay.
I got it here.
So I guess I'm not clear on, are we waiting, are you saying wait till Kevin has?
You can keep going and I'll come back to that. It's
Okay.
gonna take me a minute.
I'm sorry, I'm lost. What's the question?
Well, you had mentioned striping and we were talking from last month, perhaps just changing those. From last month, perhaps just changing those to permanent.
So striping versus coating. Talking like complete coating where the entire surface is a color? Or are you talking just adding some?
I'm talking making those like the court over on Lions. I'm talking making those like the court over on Lions 2, where
So I would suggest to you, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I would suggest to you that whether it's a pickleball / tennis or just pickleball, I'm going to ask the Alderwoman, but I don't think that's a council decision. Or do you think the council? I'm going to ask the Alderwoman, but I don't think that's a council decision. Or do you think the council would want to weigh in on that?
Well, that's a bit of a. I don't know that the entire council will weigh in on that.
If you think it's going to be an issue,
I would like to think we don't have to take it to council. I think that is something that we could make it this.
I would think that this board makes.
I would think that this board could make the decision.
I mean, whether it's a pickleball, tennis, or pickleball / tennis.
It's just a rearranging of assets, basically. So no, I don't think it needs to go to council.
No, I mean, that's review of the.
Yeah.
To refer back to minutes from previous meetings, but I believe what you're basing that on is we were told that there was a citizen complaints about dual marked courts and tennis and the competition between tennis and pickleball.
There was.
That's when it came out. Tennis and the competition between tennis and pickleball.
There was.
That's when it came out that
There was.
we would need
Well,
to take it to the council.
and also there was citizens that weren't able to get on the pickleball courts because of the reservations with through the rec department, that they weren't able to get on.
I would suggest to you those are different.
Because of the reservations with through the rec department, that they weren't able to get on.
I would suggest to you those are different issues than just
I
trying to
agree.
get the asphalt.
I agree.
Yes, sir.
I would just ask that you consider tennis courts over pickleball. If you're going to use the library parking. That's all. That's my only.
Yeah, we know there's parking, not good parking there, but
I would like to say that from and just to be there as a council, very early left, recommend Alice that place that was shot down. Just smaller number. I would think that when we do courts, we convert that all to pickleball. As we'll discuss, better I'll bring it up later, but there's an increased demand that comes with permits. It's something that we're going to have to address. Marketing materials and maps.
Should we?
do we want to vote?
Well, that's it. Do we want to go ahead and make a formal motion? And I will make the formal motion for discussion that we direct staff, Legend tennis courts, that they be converted to 12 permanent pickleball courts, at which time the 4 permanent pickleball courts at Legend 2 would be converted back to 1 permanent tennis court. Permanent tennis court. Oh, sorry. You are correct.
Well, I like the pickleball palace name first. We're over here. We're over here. I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Guys have it. That's all we have in the packet for- Yes, sir.
Just to ask, so if we, because we don't know how many are going to be paid, if others are repaid, do we want to have discussions about what we strike them as? Or do we want to go down the road of, it's either a tennis court or a pickleball court, and no more dual? I'm just asking, so I know, because
I would
we
think-
have the, because I know there's some that are doubles, and Mendel and Pleasant View.
Pleasant View.
That's something to think
And-
about.
Well, and over here.
Right.
There's the one that lines.
I think it would be a case by case basis. I would, if you're looking at some of these are on court, I would think that would be striped. If you something that's really rec department there to play tennis, how they act, for our tennis now. Double strike that one. We did ask for the rec department to come to haven't checked that, so we
Well,
can't.
So they intended to come to this meeting for the discussion of their requests for facilities, but since it was tabled, they did make a request for and Wendell again. Do they want to be both courts? We can discuss it.
Sure.
Are they coming the next meeting? I was up there and I said, well, you couldn't come in January. It was, I thought you were supposed to come in
Leah?
February.
Yeah.
Leah, yeah.
Okay. I need to actually call her, but yes, she did tell me she was planning on coming, and I also thought she was
Specifically?
at the rec department. It's the boss.
Bus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bus, yeah.
So not Brad.
No, I've been communicating primarily with Leah. Brad did come to one of your meetings last year. You guys all know.
Yeah.
And I think especially if we start to get into the discussion of cost sharing, we should include them in that discussion.
And you did see that, they want to build a facility.
There's been, so the school district has contacted the planning department about sports fields, but I don't have
We got an email, anyone that had signed up for any rec programs, we got an email. And they, over the last 15 years, it sounded like through all their programs that they, that people sign up for, they've saved like 2.5 million, 2.3 million. And then they want a tax referendum to help with the rest of it for building. So
That was going to be a suggestion next month.
for her to talk about it.
For anybody to talk about it, because
Yeah,
we
well, it
got
would
the
be good
same
if she
email,
was, yeah.
and I thought, I think Parks Commission probably needs to take a look, their way in, but
Yeah.
it's not.
middle school?
Yes, right next door. They purchased land there.
It's going to affect how we look at how this commission looks at things in the future, because it's going to affect what amenities they have that satisfy our corp.
Right.
So
Right.
I think we should look
Yeah.
at it next month on the agenda for sure.
and I will say
Agenda for sure.
and I will say they have asked some questions about that parcel, but I haven't been so, but for how it relates to this department or My understanding is that my understanding is that the rec department and the school district, and I hope that this will change, that they do not have like a fixed policy document about how they've been expanding facilities. They have general plans for some of the properties that they have recently acquired but if there is a document, it's not a public document.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
I have
They
it.
have a website that went out through
Yeah.
Franklin
Oh,
Public
yeah,
Yeah,
Schools
it's on
to
their
all the
website.
parents
Okay, so
to
they
give
didn't
us
communicate
background
with
information.
me about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
full
sure not.
package letters and then from the district.
It's mainly.
Because it pops up immediately when you try to access the Franklin Public Schools website.
Yeah. And it's mainly soccer fields and a building, and it sounded like the building would be used for, like, maybe, and I'm only guessing, but like some of their programs that they may use a room at the school during, they can't in the daytime, so they have to offer these things in the evening, and they want to be able to offer some of these things in the daytime, some of their programs.
Okay, so let's put that on the agenda for next time to have a broader discussion of the rec department.
Because I would recommend that the commission discuss it, review the plans, and because they're taking feedback until March 22nd,
Yeah.
that this commission could draft some input to send back to them.
Mhm.
Back until when?
March 22nd.
School maintain
Yeah.
that seems, instead of having like the same department or parks department or parks and rec department or under DPW, kind of just do their own thing. It seems disjointed,
I would agree.
but it's just me on the outside.
I would agree.
But it's just me on the outside looking.
5 to 6 million.
I don't think that meets the need. That's
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, we can get that fixed. All right, we'll go to letter D.
Awesome.
Update on trail projects. What do you have for us, sir?
So, past couple weeks, I've had some meetings on 116th Street. We had an open house here, and we followed it up as a Thursday night. Followed it up on Sunday with a, if you will, we called it a public information meeting, but we had a meeting at the St. Martin Tours Church. I was there between all the mission meeting, but we had a meeting at the St. Martin Tours Church. I was there between all the masses, talked to folks going, talking about the projects. We're trying to get needs from the church. So try to judge on, and try to explain the different routes and different options, and basically told them to talk to their and try to explain the different routes and different options, and basically told them to talk to the fathers and let them know what their preference is. And from what I heard, most everyone seemed to prefer the woods option, out of sight, out of mind. Having said that, I will tell you there's a minority, a few folks that really would prefer us not do that. So it's up to the church, and I'll let the church decide what they like and don't like, and let us know and see. However, as far as the 116th Street Church, though, the 116th Street Trail, we pushed the bidding back later in the year because there's a DNR permit, and they want to wait to come out until growing season before they look at everything. So that could delay the bidding process. So I'm working my way through that, but I fully expect it to get bid out this year. Whether construction happens or not this year, I don't know, but I do anticipate it'll be bid out this year.
Of the people who do not want the trail to go through the woods, are they amenable to the alternative Or do they just not want a trail alternative? Or do they just not want a trail going anywhere near their period? What's your on that?
If I could, my observation is the main objections having to deal with wetlands, trees, those kinds of. So they say lands, trees, those kinds of. So they say that we should really proceed out in the street. Like almost all the comments that I heard at the church was, "Oh, we don't want them in the front." It takes up a few parking spaces, or it takes up their yard, kind of thing. So, with the exception of a few folks who are also here on Thursday night, for the most part, everyone seemed to want them to go through. And I would say the least favorite option of both groups is the one that we had planned last year, where it's basically skirting the interior of the cemetery. So, but their favorites are either through the woods or on the street. I don't think anyone wants skirting the cemetery. It might be a nice secondary backup for both groups, but definitely a distant second.
And did the church give any indication when they'll?
I did hear that. No, I won't say.
Okay.
I walk my dog back there every once in a while. There is a trail, you started cutting it through.
So the church did give us permission to clear away. So the church did give us permission to clear a way to get in there and do some more survey work. So, but the kind of brush that we're taking out, I'm going to call it junk vegetation.
Yes.
All vegetation is precious, but in a couple of years, you probably won't even be able to find where we went for that kind of thing. So we're not taking any, in a couple of years, you probably won't even be able to find where we went for that kind of thing. So we're not taking any trees of significance. We're just trying to clear enough so we can walk. Right now, you can't walk through it without getting briars all over you, and you just really can't walk through it. So.
I noticed it was just small things, but then when we got to the very top.
Yeah, because you have. Again, we're trying to weed count from the other side yet. So we'll also go at it from the other side and again stop at the creek, so we don't have to cross the creek.
What do you mean the other?
From Monticello Gardens. Monticello Gardens, overall terrace, like at the county line. There's
You're all the way through there? Oh, I
Mary,
thought you were going to join
Maren, can you pull up the aerial?
There's a conservation easement on the back of the state lot.
I thought you were going to join the.
While she's pulling that up, I don't think I have anything to. I know I don't have anything to comment on the Cascade Creek, and the Ryan Creek trails, and Church Street. You can take that off because that was constructed last year.
All right.
So the 116th Street Trail will come up. Here's the church property. And I think the church's preferred route is for us to do something like this. There's a creek bed in here, so we either have two bridges or come across this property. Most people actually prefer the bridges. We'll have to have that discussion. I'm trying phone calls with property owners over here. However I come through, I'd like to come out as quick as I can. So this is Monticello Gardens, Jefferson Terrace, county line.
I thought you were going to straight up to
So
the track.
yeah, we're going to.
Yeah.
This is not the inner. The inner urban track is down. This is a hike bike trail. I don't think that was.
Interurban, the electric company is there?
Interurban went that way.
Also went to.
Did it? I wasn't. I guess I just know this is the hike bike trail. So yeah, it's going to leave the interurban trail over here, somehow get across, and then this first one is very excited about working so that happens. Be a small bridge here. Maybe they come up here, or maybe out here. This is Forest Home Trail. We're only building from that is happening. I'm sorry, did that answer your question?
That's the part that goes all the way to Go.
It does. This trail goes through.
Goes through the big marsh. That's where they lost all the train cars in the marsh.
Oh.
Built it.
Oh.
Not surprised.
Marsh was very
Marshy.
It was all peat. The Culvers, Dean Avenue, right across the road from that is where the track, where this trail comes out, and they have a big sign there, pictures of how the
Oh, really?
train cars were.
I'll have to go there.
Yes, it's very interesting.
So that's what I'm working on. So like I said, most folks prefer doing this. I would probably want to do this if I could talk these folks into it. I would like to come out as quick as I can. I'm trying to talk to the homeowners association here. This developer is very excited about us doing it. DNR may not let us do this. They may have us do it. DNR may not let us do this. They may have to. The option that's second on both lists is something like this. The folks that are against us going through the woods would prefer us to do something. And I guess I would say most of the people that it's going through the woods for environmental reasons would point to the cost. So it is. Thank you.
I have something to say about the Ryan Trail that's going through 92nd and Ryan. I don't know exactly how deep it's. That's school land. Buy from all schools.
You're going to go to the school property.
No, you don't have to do that. I just want to tell you about it.
Yeah.
I was walking back in there, and there's a whole heron rookery back there. It's
Oh,
like
really?
21 nests.
Oh, my.
Yeah. It's really, you can only see it in the winter, but all the leaves are gone. But the nests are way on the top of the trees, and they're all built with small sticks.
Nice.
And they're all identical. Only one of them, whole village out there. There used to be a rookery like that on Oakwood. Oakwood is in there, and it's out on county line. Back in there, there used to be one. That one. That was years ago. I was surprised to see another one.
Neat.
That has to be avoided. What I'm saying.
Where in
So-
comparison to the barn? I'm sorry. In comparison to the barn.
Well, the second field, but it's right behind the barn. Yeah, that's a sad story. Going down. That was a very different barn than most.
So we did look to work with the school and school was going to work with this. Kind of fell apart at the time being it's on.
We'll move to letter E. Little League and/or adult recreation reservations of sports facilities for baseball, recreation reservations of sports facilities for baseball, pickleball, and other groups.
So this is canvassing a couple of different items for discussion. So as you know, there are some upcoming requests for multiple league uses for facilities, in the park system, and then there's also the general request of how leagues are reserving baseball diamond facilities. So I got a little bit of information about the baseball reservations from the clerk's office. So you've got their permitting information here. It's a session on weeknights and then $4 per hour on the weekends. Limitation on how many days per week a team reserve for. Apparently there's some difficulty in communicating with the coaches about that. They don't understand that they can't reserve more than 2 nights, and they don't understand that reserve more than 2 weeks in a row, so they can only make a limited set of reservations at a time. So that's the current status of it. The clerk's office generally agreed that the permit fees could be higher, and that it would be useful to have a calendar that was publicly available to track this information. However, we didn't really get further than that. So they did provide also some information about field rentals over the last several years. And I think the summary was that last year's numbers are not far off from busier years in 2012 and 2015 with only 3 baseball fields back then. So just in general, I think they were interested in hearing the feedback, but considering that the fee is quite low and there's only a limited number of reservations, that's why you're not seeing the requests for like a longer time period, is because the current rules don't allow for that. So that's open for discussion, and then we can have a separate discussion about pickleball tennis. But start with this separate discussion about pickleball tennis. But start with this.
So those are the only 4 reservable baseball fields we have. So the other ones are show.
There's only
There
one.
should-
Show.
There's only
There
one
should
other
be
one.
5
That's
Comex.
Jack. Work.
Yeah, they
Jack
don't have
Brookman's the
Jack.
other one.
Living across the street. Around there. Increasing the fees, helpful for the department, try to collect some costs that go. And also taking a look at number of rentals, almost triple. Something that was out with the change, really allow them to practice on it.
I think that was part of it, plus the COVID.
Sure.
What about the field one?
High school. Force. Good deal.
So in the case of the increases, these reservations are only open for older. So depending on your turnaround, it might not be too late to change them for this year, or you could do it for 2024. I do not know. How much.
When was the last time?
75? No idea.
And why do we have a different fee schedule for weeknights or weekends, and weekends being less? I think in my opinion anyway, for sake of ease, having the same fee regardless of this.
Just per hour?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think by the hour.
Because weeknights are $6 per session, where weekends are $4 per hour with a maximum of 2 hours for the session. I mean, I don't know, it just doesn't make a whole lot of
The other way to
sense
look
to
at
me.
it is such a increase from a 5 to 6 to 6 to 7 to 7. How other activities built. That's if a DPW guy guys from the shop show up or baseball time cost.
$10 too much.
I think 10 is okay. I think it's cheap, but I think it's better than 6.
Yeah, I do too. Because even at $6, I like the idea of getting 3 sessions in a night. But even then, you're only getting $18 a night, and again, that goes nowhere to covering the cost of maintenance.
Correct. The other way,
And that goes nowhere to covering the cost of maintenance.
correct. The other way to look at it, a lot of these are run by the parents are paying. I don't know what Little League charges now, $300-400 to play. See, look, it's see, look, it's a nominal cost for $20.
I mean, it's basically less than $1 a kid.
I go back and forth on the whole reserves. You know, when you think about it, the money, I mean, what are we kidding me? That's
Right.
so it's like, you know, we can't guarantee we're going to be there if we can't. Sometimes we go a month without. And if we start raising the fees, we're going to expect a better. They're shorthanded. I don't know which ways. Just not do reservations? Do we do it all reservations the first like it is? I don't know. I'm open to suggest. I just don't know. I'm afraid if we raise them too much, people are going to jump on us and say, hey, I'm paying what I want.
I do feel for the specific purpose of the Little League, we're going to need to keep reservations, whether or not we increase the prices or not. To your point, it's not a game changer for us financially.
Increase in fees, but there is also other things that we attempt to do to raise the level of communication around this to socially justify the increase in fees, because part of the issue is that currently I don't think there's a way to submit a reservation online. And I don't think there's a way to submit a reservation online and look into the option of doing that. And if that's procedurally possible, recognizing that there's limited staff time in terms of do it. So I don't know what the structure would look. But that might be one way to structure would look. But that might be one way to provide improved customer service along with and then having a calendar. So I have long had a goal of having a publicly available calendar for parks reservations. It's something that has not been risen to the level of moving it forward. But in this context, maybe it would be a case to start working on baseball diamonds. Maybe it would be a case to start working on baseball diamonds, and then maybe it for other. Take some of the pressure off you, Grumman.
You haven't made an interesting comment when you said buy ball diamond, playing on it all the time because it's not reserved. That's where you go.
Yeah.
But the other ones they can't because first Monday morning, Little League is at the clerk's office.
Oh yeah, at 6 o'clock.
Reserving and everything they can. So that boots everybody outside of the city up.
Right.
6.
Yeah.
They won't let no moves.
But Greendale?
They do not allow team practice.
Oh, over at the Rock?
No,
No, at the Franklin Little League.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I gotcha.
Why? Yes. It does.
So there, I mean, it's essentially all parent funded too, and that's why our fees have gone up to maintain. But I'll just propose something listening to everybody talking. splitting up the rentals into hour session, raising the fee, changing it to a per hour, $5 with $1 in, and gives you that roundness of $5 or $10.
It's
And-
already $6.
It's $6 for an hour and a half.
Hour and a half.
So it's that Girl Scout cookie. It's $6 for an hour and a half.
Hour and a half.
So it's that Girl Scout cookie concept, right? You're paying the same amount of money for the box, but there's less cookies in it.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have them hour sessions, and you're limited to only could rent 2 hours, which would be $10. We have them hour sessions, and you're limited to only could rent 2 hours, which would be $10 rental for 2 hours if you did it. But we've got more hours to make available for people to practice. I think for the younger kids, the earlier time frame, their attention span.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's a parent volunteer who is on the field with these kids, right? So they have an hour session. Maybe the older kids will need the 2 later hours. But you're making a tiny incremental increase in price. How it goes from there. There's not an expectation of things have changed as far as maintenance, but we're just starting to adjust to the inflation of the times, and also making more time slots available for the rentals. So we're increasing availability, which seems to be another issue that has been brought up, right? The coaches are scrapping about who gets time on fields, right? Idea. I was just listening to all of you talk with your each points.
So to expand on that, because I like how you framed that. Field time more than 2 days per week. Could we change that to 2 hours per week? So that way a team could do an hour on Tuesday, an hour on Thursday, or 2 hours on Wednesday, depending on the team needs. No idea. I'm a long time out of it.
It's saying that they were once a week. So I'm thinking that it's the older kids that are doing practice. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have to talk to the coaches. I have to talk to the coaches that stand in line at 6 a.m. But that's an idea.
I could run a suggested proposal past the clerk's office for feedback. In addition to that, they would probably have a better sense of how people are using the fields, or be able to ask them directly.
The only thing I would say negative about limiting, the amount of hours is that then we might not fill up all the hours of the day, that might be, like we're limiting ourselves, and now we can't get all the hours rented out because of it.
Right, and see,
I would think it would. I like the idea of simplifying it, not having 2 different too much.
I think if the coach came to parents and said, amongst the 15 of us on the team have to absorb a $10 fee per week, I think a parent who's already paying those $200, almost $300 fees for them, I think they would be able to handle that.
We want to bring
Yep, I can run it past them. So I've got here changing it to 1 hour sessions with a $5 fee per hour for any reservable spot. And then there was some discussion of changing.
Do you think they only practice once a week? The older kids maybe practice twice?
That's what I was saying. I think
I
so.
would give them
More
4 hours.
Why couldn't you start at 4?
Yeah,
because with
Oh, 4 o'clock. What about 4 hours? Then the older kids practice. They have their 2 hours.
I
So
don't
to
think
say
we-
no more than 4 hours per week, but 2 on any given day. So we would have 3 hours available, and essentially it would be either 3 or 2, right? Rentals. Okay, 3 or 2, right? Rentals. Okay.
Because my guess is what you're going to have is some coaches collaborating and saying, hey, I'm going to go reserve all the time on this day, but I'll just give you one of the hours. I'll take 2 hours and you take, or I'll take,
Oh,
Yeah. but there's, the thing is, one of the hours. I'll take 2 hours and you take, or I'll take,
oh.
Yeah. But there's, the thing is, there's only 3 hours available in the evenings.
We said maximum 12.
Unless, do we add a 4 to 5? Would that help the situation? Many teams practice at 4 o'clock? No. Yeah.
So
I
that would
didn't know if
Oh,
anybody
yeah.
was available that early.
Okay, so 2 hours per week instead of 2 days, alternatively, a total of 4 hours, hour time block. They say, follow up on the email from earlier, so. We'll be back next.
The second part of this was to talk about pick up a proposal in front of us from the rec department to deal with reserving all the pickleball courts at Vernon Barg from I think it was April 1st until like October 31st, Monday through Thursday, from like 5 to 9. Then we had a second from like 5 to 9. Then we had a second group who reached out to us, wanted to reserve the pickleball courts at Vernon Barg Thursdays, 5 and 10.
We haven't yet received, so last year we received a group of seniors requested the voting. So last year we received a group of seniors requested the voting, and we haven't heard yet.
That's Sam Chrissy's group. Yeah, I'm sure he'll.
Okay, so this is the current, and you are not voting on this today, just to be clear, because
Okay.
that's not what's on the agenda. But this is the current set of requests for pickleball and tennis facilities, pending any other ones that would come in, and the chair requested that we table, expecting that there will be.
So it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday evenings, and Saturday mornings?
Correct.
And can't see the time for Saturday.
9 to 11:30.
Oh, it should be noon.
This is what they're.
Oh,
This
that's
was
what
what-
they requested?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
My issue with this is that we have one set of courts that's basically that has high demand, but if someone from the general public wanted to come play Thursday or Saturday, then there will be another group who don't have the paperwork who will ask for it Monday, Thursday, like 9 to noon, 12, whatever they've done in the past.
It's 8 to.
So if Steve, who lives across the street, wanted to bring his son, to play pickleball, they don't have access to any of the courts in the city.
But I thought then, and I don't know when they're planning on resurfacing these tennis courts, I thought we had discussed that it would be courts. Pleasant View is where the citizens
Correct.
go.
But
Yeah,
those are down, and they're not going to
till July, yeah.
probably till mid to late summer.
Yeah, I know.
So
Quite a bit of drying time.
to be honest, and this might put me out on an island, but I would like to leave it one day wide open to the public. Where
Well, I can tell you in the mornings, the groups are Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's not Tuesday, Thursday. Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings is what he does. There's Friday, all day Friday. Oh, well, not in the morning, but afternoon and evening and Sunday. Or you're not.
I don't count the weekend.
Okay.
I would like to leave one weekday completely wide open for the public. I think it's a public court. I don't know what the reservation costs are, but I'm going to guess they're very
There's no reservation cost for the pleasure, and there's no permit required.
So I could request a permit to book the courts 12:30 to 5, if it's Friday, vote and say yes, and it's my court, I could take off
Yeah.
people if I didn't want them there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I, as a department, I just think that's what you can call it. As a department, I just think that's what you can call it.
That's the
It's a
argument.
quandary because we are pay $15 for membership, and they do Monday, Wednesday at Social Pickleball, which is lesser Wednesday at Social Pickleball, which is lesser skill set, and Tuesday, Thursday is the semi-competitive,
Where is
and then
this
it's
at?
mixed
Same
on
place.
Saturdays.
I just thought you guys said that nobody books it on Thursdays.
In the morning. That
Okay.
Sam isn't here, he books it for his money to purchase balls if he needs to get balls.
So the $15 you guys pay, does that go to the rec department?
Rec department.
Yes.
Which then doesn't take money back in?
Well, they do
Resurface.
provide us balls.
Okay.
And they did provide us, well, with the temporary nets for the tennis courts.
Okay.
But is there a limit then to the?
Well, I wouldn't say private club, but it's Franklin
I mean,
residents.
in effect, I mean,
But
it's,
that's just
it's
like,
very limited to who can
but
be.
that's like any other thing they offer. They offer a limited number of spots. You know,
They have
Yeah.
an earlier, it's, since I've been playing, they've filled up
they fill up like
within
in a day.
hours of the day that
Yeah.
it's open. In fact, put it in your phone on your calendar because there's not enough spots. Now, one thing I will say that prior to 5 p.m., if we have people on the courts who are there, they're not kicked off right away, but it's like when you go to a bowling alley, you tell them, oh, we have league night
I mean,
tonight.
at 5.
And then when you're done playing your, next game, then we've got our folks coming on board.
Yeah.
There is also an option for any random citizen to come and say, I'd like to try this out and play in the game because we line up all of our, you're not playing with the same people, you play into each
And-
game.
And they can play once for free before going through the rec department. If they want. So.
So we've had people
Christmas,
come
yeah.
to try it out, There are also going to be additional courts at a private organization, Franklin as well,
Where's that?
at the Rock.
Oh, yeah.
This summer, we're at a conundrum. We have two groups that have now requested. Same two groups that have now requested at the same time. A lot of times.
Where do you see this?
There's this private gentleman who put in a request that was tabled to rent the court on Thursdays for 5 days.
I didn't never hear of this.
That's why I tabled it, pulled over. I would like to see all the people that pulled over. I would like to see all the requests at the same time so we can approve. That makes the most logical sense.
So this gentleman, he will attend the next meeting, but ideally he'd like to be at Pleasant View, but since it's not available.
I don't know who the person is or what he's been asking, but I mean, I can only speak for myself, but I've been coming here for years asking for court time, and we've had the rec department running these nights since I think it's 2018 now. To say, because a private person wants to come in, I would say, well, we have Friday night. I mean, there's already something that's already scheduled on the courts. I don't know what everybody else thinks. That's just my personal opinion. But we've been working hard to promote this sport, and it has exploded. And for
Sorry, keep going.
no, go ahead.
Well, I think part of the issue is there is the rec department, which is charging fees, and then it's obviously a department, which is charging fees, and then it's obviously a big group with a lot of people interested. Then there's lots of like smaller pickup groups that don't necessarily, I'm sure they're familiar with the programs and don't necessarily want to be part of that larger play, when and where can want to be part of that larger play, when and where can they meet? And
They have pickleball at the Milwaukee Sports Complex.
They
also
have-
that you can play in for $2 a day.
And Windle is open at night. Time's over. I mean, I don't know how many courts this person's looking for, what his purpose is, if he has his own private league he wants to bring in, or if he's got 4 people, I don't know. But I can remember when I first came here, here's what they told me. You have to have your own net. There's that Ken Windle. Well, a lot of people do have their own nets now. They didn't at the time. But there are striped courts at Ken Windle that if he's looking to play also.
well, so here's another question. Should this commission be the arbiter of this scheduling? Because right now, there's no fees being charged, and you're shaping the discussion. Some of you
I know.
are participants in existing groups.
Well, through the rec department.
Right.
Well, through the rec department.
Right. But the pickleball community is broader than that. So, and there's not a representative here for that
Yeah.
question. But also it's, the commission itself is making decisions for that community. Like, how do you, itself is making decisions for that community. Like, how do you want to handle it in a broad sense? Not specific to the
gotcha.
interests of any one group.
Yep. I
So,
got you.
Because right now, the commission is basically the arbiter of who gets to use the facilities. So we're the ones that are going
Yeah.
to push back about it.
Right.
So
Well, that's just it. You know, when I get calls from people saying, I pay taxes in the city, I want to use the courts. I don't know what to tell them. And I'll be honest with you guys, you may not like it, but I'm going to tell them. We're going to request to the Parks Commission because
Mhm.
I don't know what to tell them anymore.
that's exactly what happened.
It's going to be a snowball and it's going to, they want to play.
I get it.
And I see both sides. You know, I've had people yell at me, well, that's not fair. Well,
Yeah.
maybe
That-
so. But
well, I just, because, I mean, the rec department's had this now about 5 years outdoor, and I know they're not here, and they come in, she's coming next month, and I guess that's probably when she's gonna request the days, but, yeah, I don't know.
The sky should,
Request the days, but, yeah, I don't know.
the sky should. So we know exactly
Right.
Who?
whoever it is.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So we know exactly how many people he has and willing to try Fridays instead of Thursdays, or try Fridays instead of Thursdays, or
Or you
Even
split
if
it in
he's-
half. You can have half courts and rec. Why not?
Got 72 people signed up.
Maybe that night they
So-
only have 36. I mean, it's, the rec
Yeah.
department put in a request.
Yeah.
It's this commission's role to set policy.
Mhm.
So there are details of the specific requests that matter, but also criteria that you set. So, for example, you could say, you know, if it's just like a private small group, there's a day that's things like the kind of parsing of how do you want to split up the time slots and that kind of thing
Yeah.
that we worked through a moment ago. So it's the big group. Obviously, there's a huge demand, and it has been growing, which means we've been seeing growth in other groups. You know,
Yeah.
they're and the facilities are not going to grow in the immediate future to meet the demand. So you guys are going to have to baby it a little bit. And what that looks like, I would caution you that you want to try to be a little bit strategic about it and policy oriented as opposed to like.
But it's not, we just volunteer to help out.
Well, it's the Parks Department facility.
Yes,
their
yes,
criteria
I
and-
know,
To the
yeah.
disconnect
I guess
that
the
you were talking
larger-
about earlier.
Yeah, that is the disconnect.
I guess the larger question that, and this very broad question to consider why treat high demand facilities, why would we treat reservations for one set of facilities differently from another set of facilities? It's like we'd have two different criteria for renting pavilions at different parks. For renting pavilions at different parks. Or it's going to be $500 to rent Ken Windle and $700 to rent Lions Legend 2. Or maybe your group's going to get it for free.
But
The thing, if I may, Susie, what group's going to get it for free?
But
The thing, if I may, Susie, what I'm looking at is equity here. Equity for all groups, all individuals, and that there is clarity of policy, and that everyone give policy, and that everyone can understand why we're doing what we're doing, and then it doesn't come down to our commission or the clerk's office or you to be the arbiter of who gets to. I don't know the immediate answer to that question, but I think that's really how we need to look at it. Okay. Sorry.
no, I was just gonna say, you know, you have concerts in the park. Where do they use the pavilion? You can't rent that park on that day. I'm just speaking as from a volunteer from the rec department side of it. That for 5 years, and they've had it in the book. Those are the days and times we've had. And like I said, I didn't know about this, and I don't know if this is a request for him to come in. He wants to use one court, or does he have 30 players he wants to come in and use? You know, that way.
I will say there's not much opportunity for our youth to get.
You know, that way.
I will say there's not much opportunity for our youth to get involved in
No, I would
pickleball
love them to.
because the rec department, it has to be 16 and older, and there are younger kids starting to play. So I do see that, and I actually have seen that from my own. I do see that, and I actually have seen that from my own group. I have a coffee group that meets on Friday mornings, and we went to go play some pickleball, and I was, where are all these? Oh, they're all reserved. You can't use any of them. So it was like I showed up to my own courts, and I was like, what? You know, I wanted to show these people how to. This was last summer.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought anybody could drop in and.
Well, we did drop in, but like we couldn't come in as a foursome and play.
Oh, I see what you're
our
saying.
own,
Yeah.
You know, like if you came with your family and your
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
So we ended up I have my own net, so I set one up on the side and we played in the other tennis court area. So, or I would have gone to Ken Wendell probably, but it is debilitating for this community to not be able to get in there.
Yeah.
But if we were to set policies, I would say that another city organization like the recreation department should be able their offerings to the community, and we would put precedent on that for them to have the rental first picks, you know. I think they were thoughtful, and like Friday night when you're done with the work week, school week, a family could go and play on a Friday night together, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that group is. I know the guy, and I know his little WhatsApp, you know.
Oh, he doesn't have a WhatsApp.
Oh, there's some group of pickleball players that all are on a WhatsApp
He's
kind of
not.
thing. But the morning one, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a league or what?
No, it's drop in anybody.
From the rec department then?
No.
Just private citizen. And then we have an additional private citizen looking for Thursday.
So have we made a decision, or we're just talking and?
I think we're just talking to see where.
Yeah.
Okay.
What I mean, I like the idea that if we set rules and regulations on how to reserve baseball diamonds, probably consider that continue that conversation. Every problem, consider that, continue that conversation on everything. That way it's consistent. I do think that we should not be the arbiter of one court at one time. That goes back to discussion. Communication. I think it really starts to, as everything continues to grow, there should be a push for
There should
Parks
be.
and Rec department that oversees DPW. You guys are involved with what you have. So, I think that growing need is
And access to the area. One thing that we would run into with the pickleball courts is the volunteers come and open up this case for us so that we can get access to the pickleballs and the equipment.
They close everything up and just give people
Right.
started. Yeah.
So we don't have personnel for each hour of rental. We don't have online reservations. So somebody's going to be tasked to have a calendar with multiple hours. That's an issue,
And
right?
this person didn't want to join the rec department program, or this person didn't want to join the rec department program, or didn't say?
He didn't say, he specifically was interested in the Pleasant View court, but again, you know,
Oh, so he was more interested there than, I
Yeah.
gotcha, okay. Then, I
Yeah.
gotcha, okay.
And just a note, when we were planning on resurfacing quite a few at Hampton, various courts will be closed for extended times.
Yeah.
asphalt plant.
Oh, wow.
Weather dependent. I mean, it could be mid-April, but usually May. Then they shut down in October. So it's all window.
The weather will hold and it'll be
Maybe.
March.
Yeah.
The county is going to get the Fleming Park
Yeah, I never heard.
completed this year. I've been assured the money's still in the budget, but I'm waiting for it to be proven.
This upcoming season reservation, and if there are no conflicts, you guys can figure out. But I think it is time for the commission to set policy about how the court reservations are.
And I know, and if the city, and I know, and if the city, and I know, as far as funds, if you're talking, I guess you'd have to make a whole, you'd have to make a plan if it's by reservation to do it that way. If it's, then I guess the rec department will be out of it. Totally. Then I guess the rec department will be out of it. Totally out of it, because I don't think they'd want to do the reservation. Not reservation, they wouldn't want to do the sign up if reservations were needed. And if you do them the same way, you only can do them by the week. Unless, I mean, you'd have to really think about how to do that, and maybe.
Why can't we get this online? I can't. Isn't somebody savvy that isn't there software out there somewhere that other parks really have to struggle like
That's
this?
what I'm actually looking at.
Milwaukee County uses a system.
And this
called
problem
Vectra.
is really only for this year. Problem we won't have next year if we have Pleasant View.
Yeah. Well, there is Ken Wendell.
To what other communities have, but if it was something that the commission wanted to maybe recommend the purchase of, that part of a future budget, because it would very likely approach the level of a capital expense. in
Purchase
terms
of what?
Of software. In
Purchase
terms
of what?
Of software.
Oh, okay.
So I have no idea how much it would cost, but presumably more than $5,000 for even one license. So we can certainly look into what the software is and what the cost is. I don't know what the clerk's into what the software is and what the cost is. I don't know what the clerk's office's reaction would be to that, but they might be in favor of it because it would streamline their process. They had a separate conversation about handle with the baseball diamond question, accepting it online and how to collect it. And question, accepting it online and how to collect it. So, but that could be 2024 and forward. Online permitting for.
I'm looking at this ordinance for neighboring town, and it says department shall be reserved only by written permit except for department-sponsored program. That's them giving correct.
Well, and unfortunately, Park and Rec is separate.
Yep.
Cities are together. They're together.
Yeah, City of Milwaukee is run by the school district and uses school.
We have to move today's program. Get online like everybody else does. Everything else.
Am I correct that the tennis and pickleball courts are the only city facilities that the rec department uses?
I don't know. Just no.
See, it would just be a whole lot better. Uses.
I don't know. Just no.
See, it would just be a whole lot better if the school district would add tennis and pickleball courts over there instead of a few soccer fields.
I know some people were gonna be.
Well, yeah,
notes to them. You know, some people were gonna be to them. You know, some people were gonna be sending a message to them.
That would solve a lot of problems.
That's it. If there's nothing, next meeting would be March 13th.
Well, we didn't really talk about C though.
What I just mentioned.
We did, there was nothing about it. What was that?
Oh no, there was nothing in
Yeah,
it.
there's
Yeah. Not for the, there will be, the VAP is going in the June issue of the newsletter, and I still need to connect with Commissioner Milwaukee about the rest of that.
The what, the map?
Right. Yep.
I have a question too. You know, are we still doing that buckthorn cleanup for the buckthorn? Are we doing that? Like,
Yeah.
like that man came here. and
Thought
talked to
he
us?
was working with the city attorney on a memorandum of understanding.
Yeah, he did send me
Yeah.
and I am not sure if I followed up, like, close the loop on that. So, I believe I sent it to the city attorney. I can't remember if the city attorney responded to me.
Because just like everything else, when you guys talk about things, I'll do my own little thing for it, like just a mock-up of it and stuff like that.
Oh, for the buckthorn?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
because if you want volunteers, you have to promote it to your community to get volunteers. And I have a question. Whatever happened to the Friends of Franklin's? And I have a question. Whatever happened to the Friends of Franklin's Parks? Whatever happened to that? Like, I don't know anything about it. A lot of groups have them. A lot of cities have them.
That kind
Was
of
it like an older group or something?
died
Maybe it
out
just died out.
several years. Kind
Was
of
it like an older group or something?
died
Maybe it
out
just died out.
several years ago. I know I spoke last summer with one of the gentlemen who was very active with that. And I know he still has all of the materials and information and would be very glad to pass it off to younger people who'd maybe want to revive that. But
Well, see, that's another thing. If people don't know it doesn't exist, then how do you doesn't exist? And they're not promoting it, so if you don't promote things, no one's gonna sign up for anything. So,
I do believe it was run as a separate 501c3, though, that was not in any way formally affiliated with the city. And Don Dorson, yeah.
And he's not interested.
like, so let's say we do this Buckthorn thing, like, who's going to run it? Like, who's going to be the organizer? Is that person that was talking going to do that? Okay.
No, he
Franklin
wanted
Woods.
to do Franklin Woods
Yeah.
this spring.
Yeah. So it's just like,
I guess
You-
my understanding was that he was kind of bringing in his group because he wanted to be sure that people doing it were well trained.
right.
He has a certificate, there is a specific herbicide,
Right, he had mentioned
he has
that.
that certification. I can close the loop, and if you want me to connect you directly, I'm more than happy to do that. I'm sure you'd love to.
Yeah, that would be awesome, because I would like people to know about this. People would love to do this. People to know about this. People would love to do this stuff. You know, they're helping their community and stuff like that. But if they don't know about it, they're not going to get any. I know, it's a lot. I know. She's like going, there's no staff.
Well,
She's like going, there's no staff.
well,
And there isn't, I understand
not.
that, and for DPW, there's nobody either. There's,
Citizens,
yeah, they do like to do this stuff. Especially if it's your neighborhood park and stuff. So if
Yeah.
You can't be pulling from, it's your neighborhood park and stuff. So if
Yeah.
You can't be pulling from the same people all the time, like I know you volunteer to do and stuff like that. There's a big city out here, people.
Well, I'm happy to connect you, just in terms of coordinating volunteers. It's true that there are not really staff. In terms of coordinating volunteers, it's true that there are not really staff. So, I don't know, DPW or plan.
I know. I guess I just coming from a really weird place here, and it's just, and I just don't see it happening here. Frustrating. You know, happening here. Frustrating. You know,
Understandable.
because there's people here that love Franklin and they want us better.
Well, that's part of the role of the commission, I think, to help connect the community back to the resources here. So, in some ways, I wish that there were more resources dedicated to our commission so that you could there would be a better flow.
Or that we've had other venues of communication to the public.
So the donation policy,
Has to go to common
It's
council.
already done. Right.
it wasn't totally agreed on how it was going
Right.
to.
Yep, so the suggestion was to send it forward to common council back, and I have not been able to draft a common council action sheet.
So soon?
I would like to be able to do that. It is a recurring reminder in my calendar.
In her
so-
defense, the mayor currently sets priorities for her and her colleagues in the planning department.
So it's, and there are several projects that I'm responsible for. So I would like to be able to, like I said, I wish there were resources needed using my time.
The next meeting is March 3rd.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Fantastic. We'll see everybody in a while.
Thank you.
Thank you.